a short time ago, Canada, we were talking about disappointing results, since the World Cup in Qatar and since they were the dominant force in CONCACAF. And now that narrative seems to have flipped, where the U.S. is floundering. They seem to be without identity. There's a certain apathy in that squad. But I think it's important, though, when you're talking about the U.S. and what they need, that you don't discount Canada, that Canada is given full credit for the performance in Kansas City to really be a dominant force, no matter who the U.S. is going to deploy.
I agree with you. It's easy to, when things aren't going well, to point finger at others. And, they've tried this before at the Copa, where they're pointing a finger at Canada. Oh yeah, they're lucky, or they didn't score enough. They shouldn't be where they are. And we had a terrific run in the Copa. And now we played the Americans at home and absolutely dominated them. It was a dominating performance. Do they deserve respect, Canada? Yeah, absolutely. But do I give a shit what they think down south of the border? Not really. I don't care. I care more about what our fans think, what our players think, and how we're improving and we're evolving as a football nation. And I thought it was a great performance. And look, whether Reyna was playing and Weah and Adams, are they going to make a difference? Look, we're missing Kone, we're missing Buchanan. And it didn't matter who stepped onto that pitch. We were still going to keep our levels and standards high. So I thought it was a great performance, and I'm delighted where we are. And our players, and rightly so, deserve all the respect in the world. I thought it was a tremendous performance. And then for a football neutral fan that watched that game, they would applaud the performance of this Canadian team.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, Dubs, it's important, the style of play for our fans in Canada? They're playing an attractive style that, we talked to Alistair Johnston last week, and he even referred to it as, if we put 11 behind the ball and we just chunked it up and we didn't play attractive, it just wouldn't sell as well in Canada. I would tend to agree with that. And I think that style of play will certainly, what we saw in Copa, bring those fans in, the neutral fans, the ones that are just sort of lingering, don't really know much about the game, but are excited about this national team. I think there's more than one reason to be excited, and the style of play is a big one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Jesse Marsch has come in and he's got all these guys subscribing to his philosophy. He's got the buy-in for sure. But then the upside of that, after you come out of that nucleus of players and within that locker room, is that for the neutral, for a passing fan, for somebody who's just taking notice of this team, perhaps because of that performance at Copa America, that you're going to be converting these people. And that's a really important thing as you look forward to 26. And you listen to Jesse Marsch, he's not going out in these pressers in an attempt to win anybody over. But he says things like, I wouldn't change coaching this team for anything in the world. And then you look at where the U.S. finds themselves now, and a lot was made of the fact that Jesse Marsch, or a lot will continue to be made of the fact that he's an American coaching a Canadian team. I thought it was interesting when we had him on, he referred to himself as not Canadian, which I thought was a very deliberate choice of words or turn of phrase, right? He didn't even want to utter the word American, and not because he's ashamed of the fact or doesn't take pride in the fact that he's a Yank, but I think he wants to really shift the focus on the fact that he's coaching this Canadian team. And I think he really believes in the squad, and he really believes in the players and the people that are amassed there. And I think you're getting that buy-in and that belief in as like a groundswell of support in Canada. So Jimmy, let me ask you this: is coaching the Canadian men's national team, is that a more lucrative job than coaching the U.S. men's national team right now?
Right now, yeah, I probably think it is. But what I do like about Jesse, and I think when individuals take over jobs, is you want to show the public and the players that you're invested, and you want to be a part of something. You want to be a part of a project because you believe in it. You believe in the players. You believe in the direction that the organization is going. And Jesse Marsch is invested. Just even by the few words that he speaks, you can tell that he wants to be here, and it's nice to see, and it's refreshing. And the players will buy into that. Going back to his style of play and his identity that he's bringing to this national team. a lot of the times when a new manager comes in and you're out in the training pitch, they've got their own philosophy and style of play, and they try to implement that in training. And sometimes as a player, when you're working on something and you don't see the rewards from it, you kind of tend to back off and be like, this is not working. But when you start to see a little bit of success in games from what you've been working on the training pitch, then you kind of look at one another and go, oh, hey, there's something here. This is actually good. This works. And then you start building on it. And so you could see that the players were getting success. And this goes back to when they're playing in France and Holland, and when Jesse was telling them what they want to do, and you could start seeing glimpses of it, couldn't you? And that's where the players are buying into it now, because they're going, hey, this works. There's some success here. This could be really, really dangerous. And then you see it in the next match. You saw it in the Copa, and against the Americans, you saw it firsthand all over the park, almost for 90 minutes, just how that works and that identity and that style of play. And the players have bought into it. They've said, this is it. This is who we are, and we're going with this now because this works. And it's great to see. It really is. And it does take some time, though, for players to buy into something. But these guys have grasped this very, very quickly.
Yeah, they've taken it and run with it. But there was a lot for us, don't you think, where Marsh comes in, there's a lot of excitement around the hiring, questions even from us. Is he the right person to take this team, to success, potentially co-hosting a home World Cup in 2026? It could have gone all pear-shaped early on with matches against the likes of France and the Netherlands and Argentina and in Copa America, but it's done the opposite. I think it's surprise. I think they're ahead of where they wanted to be, even in Marsh's estimation. And I think, to your point, Jimmy, even the players' estimation, I think they're probably surprised at how quickly the ascension has taken place. But are you surprised yourself, Forrest, at where this team finds themselves right now in the grand scheme of things in their progression?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it works both ways, because, I mean, he talked about how proud he was of this group and being a coach of this group. Because after that match, I mean, he must have been just beaming with pride, because
he called it, didn't he? Was he not on CBS Galazzo? And he said, I think we're going to, he didn't say, I think, he said, we're going to win this thing 2-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just showing off now, isn't he?
Yeah. A little bit of swagger. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, ahead of schedule for sure. And I was somewhat surprised with the style and that press, how successful it has been. Because I was always still worried about the defensive side of things. And if they can pass through lines, they could really break us open pretty quickly. We saw that even prior to the World Cup under John Herdman against, I think it was Uruguay at the time. They beat us up, and the defensive side of things, we were exposed. Yeah. That part of the game as a team, they've really done a good job. Now, if I'm a club and I'm sending my players to the national team for Canada, I'm a little concerned about how much running they do. They absolutely run their asses off. And after 2 games with the national team, these guys are going to need a month off. Like, it's intense. And I got to think that the clubs are looking at that thinking, man, the loads that you guys are putting on with the national team is quite extensive.
But you're also at the flip side of that is, yes, it's a lot of running and demands on the bodies and might be making them a little bit more susceptible to injuries, but the upside is more so, right? Like, I mean, if you're weighing the two, like the success that they're getting, the winning culture, and that they're able to bring that back to their teams. I think also what Marsh is asking them to do when they're with the respective clubs. And actually you saw to that end for us, and your point, Alistair Johnston go off, and then now Sam Adekubi, after playing 30 minutes with the Whitecaps, is moved back into that squad after he was taken off early on in this window. So Jimmy, do you see the players, after calling these matches, like since Marsh has been hired, do you see a difference, and do you see a progression in individuals, or seeing them playing at their clubs? Are they doing different things with their clubs, say a Chouanier or Eustachio or like a David at Lille, that they're pulling from the national team and what Marsh is asking them to do, all the running and the aggressive style of play? And are they imbuing that a little bit in their club setup?
Maybe you'll take a little bit from the national team and the way that you're playing and bring it back to your club. But at the end of the day, all these players at the club level have got managers and style of play.
Mhm.
So you can't really go out and do what you want. You've got to do what that manager wants. And then when you go with the national team, Jesse Marsh, this is how we play, and this is how you have to adapt. So, as much as you maybe want to press and run as much as you do with the national team at your club level, it depends, because you can't just go gung ho on your own and do whatever you want, right?
Yeah, I don't think Lille play that high press quite like Canada do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit of an adjustment for some of the players, and yeah, every team's got their own identity, and then also with the style of play and what they do is massively different at club level most of the time.
And then how about this team? Like, we've talked a lot about the press and like what Jesse Marsh ball for, I can't believe I just came out of my mouth, but we'll figure out something better to describe his style of play. But we know it's aggressive, we know it's front-footed, we know it's dynamic, we know that his expectations for these players in terms of that output is really, really high. But because they're able to win the ball with this organized, kind of suffocating press, you're seeing them capitalize on that and produce really high goal scoring opportunities. I mean, Schaffelberg gets on the board in the 17th minute, but this was a team that from that opening whistle seemed to be creating chances almost at will as a result of how effective the press was, Jimmy.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love the way that the press, where they win the ball. And he actually said in training they work an awful lot in that final third, where it was like high intensity, lots of repetition for finishing those chances. They were actually working on like that diagonal chip. I think if you remember in the first half when Lauren with that little reverse chip to the far post, and Jonathan David actually strikes it. They worked on that. They worked an awful lot. They said in that final third, just when we win it, what do we do? How fast is it? And it was high intensity reps that they were working on, and it paid off, and it showed as well just how quick they were moving that ball in and around the box.
And I always wondered about that in international duty, international level rather, because at club level there was, when he was at Leeds, even Bielsa before him at Leeds, both of them like that offensive pressing run. And the big question was that could they sustain it for the whole season? And the answer was probably no, at club level. But at international level for games, when you've got tournament play, I think it actually does. It certainly suits us in this group of players. They're like, fuck it, we're Canada. Alistair Johnson said it. And I think that confidence that they're building on is just really, really exceptional. And they're, but buying in, everybody's going to go do their best no matter whether you're buying in or not. But when you've got results and things are going well and you're like, yeah, I think we're better than we were before.
Yeah, the proof is in that Canadian pudding. I mean, better puddings than in the US for sure. Like snack packs, right? We call it chocolate pudding. And then Jimmy, you're talking about reverse chips. Are those the chips that curl, that kind of double over on itself? No?